Hi everybody, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Gigi, and yeah, I'm going to be talking about sexual abuse and domestic violence and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be talking about my story and what it's done in my life. So yeah, I was born in the Midwest. And when I was about 3 months old, my parents moved out west. And I think when I was about 3 years old, they divorced. So other than my parents divorcing, I had a fairly normal childhood until I was 9. You know, I did all the kid stuff. I did ballet and I did track and gymnastics and ice skating. And I took cello lessons and piano lessons. And, you know, I kept busy. And then the abuse started, and I actually wanted to do those things even more because it got me out of the house. It was my oldest brother. He's passed away now, so I'm comfortable talking about it because he's no longer here. Yeah, it was something that we had a 5-bedroom house. And it always happened in the basement. And I'm not going to go into detail, but it was always on the same couch. It was, I remember it, I can see it like it was yesterday. It was this old couch that faced our washer and dryer in the basement. And so yeah, that went on for 3 years. My mom never knew, and I was, of course, told don't ever tell her because we'll be in trouble. And well, I knew what trouble meant. With my mom, it was you get the belt on a bare ass. And so I never said anything. And I never said anything to her until I was 28. And even then, she didn't believe me. So we didn't speak for 2 years. And she finally called me after 2 years and apologized for not believing me. And told me that she finally believed me. And I'm not sure, I would like to say that she should have seen signs of something was wrong with me, but when you're a parent, trust me, you don't always see those signs. So it's not like I hold that against her for not knowing what was going on. She worked 2 jobs, so even though I was the youngest, I was the one in charge of cooking and cleaning, and at the age of 9 is pretty much when I started. That's kind of when she started working 2 jobs because Dad wasn't there anymore, and he was pretty much a deadbeat dad. He, I guess, wasn't paying child support, and we never really saw him much. So, but yeah, so at one point I ran away. I don't know how old I was, maybe 11 and a half, almost 12. And I ran away to go live with my dad. And my mom, well, she didn't want anything to do with that. So she packed us up and, well, my best friend's parents were moving back. They were moving out to the Midwest. And so my mom sent me out there with them to live with them. And my best friend's parents were alcoholics. And they smoked like fiends. That's where I learned to smoke. We used to steal their cigarettes. And then eventually their booze. And yeah, so, but I'm definitely blaming the domestic or the child sexual abuse on my drug abuse as a teenager because it was an escape. It was a way for me to hide from the pain, you know. But in doing all of that with the drugs got me into some pretty hairy places, you know, and scary places. Places I should never have been, and things that happened to me. I I had, you know, a lot of guy friends. I didn't have a lot of girlfriends, a couple. And as far as I'm concerned, they weren't the best of friends. But I think the sexual abuse as a child also is what made me promiscuous as a teenager. So it wasn't just the drugs, but it was sex at a young age. And just even boyfriends in my teens were abusive. You know, I mean, I had one threaten me that that if I didn't go down on him and give him head, you know, that he was going to bite my nipple off. It's like, here comes the fear, you know. It's like, it just controls you. So you do what they say, you know. And yeah, and I had another one that literally raped me. I didn't want sex, and he just thought he could do whatever the fuck he wanted to do. And that was, I never told anybody, you know. You just didn't talk about that stuff back then, and I was terrified to, because that would mean I would have to tell my mother what I was doing, you know. And that actually happened when my mom put me in a group home so she could go on vacation to Mexico, and she was afraid I was going to run away and go live with my dad again. And I did run away, but not to go to my dad's. I ended up at a party at a friend's house, and that's how the rape happened. But yeah, it kind of really just dictated how my life went, you know, and all the trouble I got into and the bad situations. And there was a time when I think we must have been hitchhiking, a girlfriend of mine and myself, and somehow we ended up in this house. I'm gonna say, I don't know if it was, you know, a trafficking house or what, but there were girls, young girls my age, chained to the floor with mattresses on the floor. And they had burns all over their body, like burn marks all over their arms and their legs. And I remember one of the girls told me that they put their cigarettes out on her body, and also put them up in her vagina while they were still lit. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I don't know how I got out of there, but I got out of there. And I remember calling my mother collect on the phone and telling her to please come and get me. You know, I'm sorry I ran away, just come and get me. And I didn't know where I was. I mean, I knew what town I was in, but I didn't know where other than the street names. And so I read her off the 2 street names, and there was this huge bush on the corner. And I told her I'd be hiding under the bush, and because I was afraid somebody would see me and take me back to that house. And I don't know whatever happened to my girlfriend, but it was a scary situation. You know, I got myself, again, I don't know, I know what town I was in, but we ended up at some drug dealers' houses, and I mean, there was big piles of cocaine on the table, huge piles. And guys standing around with like automatic rifles, and it was fucking scary. I just can't believe the shit that I got myself into. And I do blame it all on the sexual abuse, because before then I felt normal. I felt, at least, I don't know, I just felt like a kid, I guess, you know. I was just a kid having fun. And then, you know, bam, you're slapped in the face with this shit that goes on for years, and it just turns your life upside down. And every every decision, every, skipping school all the time, running away, all of that was a direct result of the abuse. And that's where my life, started to go downhill. I met my first husband when I was about, 13 or 14, but we were just friends. He was 2 or 3 years older than me, I think. And we were friends until I was, I'm going to say, between 17 and 18 is when we started dating. And I ended up, my first pregnancy I lost. So I got pregnant with somebody else before I started dating my husband. And I was 6 months pregnant when she stopped moving. And the doctors made me carry that baby for a whole month, knowing it was dead. They said that they had to give my body a chance to go into labor naturally. And if after 30 days I didn't, they would induce labor. They said that I was still pumping too much blood to the baby, and that if they took it now, I could hemorrhage. I don't know. I think it's a bunch of horse shit. But anyway, that's what they told me. And so that was kind of rough, carrying around a dead baby. And I really wanted that baby, even though the guy that I got pregnant with didn't want anything to do with me or the baby. It was like she was going to be the one thing that I would have that would love me and that I could love unconditionally, And then I remember my mom saying, that baby is going to call me mother. I'm going to raise that baby, blah, 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 And it was like, oh, no, you're not. Fuck you. And then one of my brothers, not my oldest, but the middle kid in the family, he turned into a monster too. And I remember him telling me that he wishes my baby would die, and she did. So anyway, so that was the first baby that I lost. And then I got pregnant with my husband, and I lost that one too. And and then I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, and we got married a couple months after I found out that I was pregnant. And we ended up moving out to California because my husband was going to be a rock and roll star, and he was good guitar player. I mean, he made Jimmy Page. He just put Jimmy Page to shame, as far as I'm concerned, and that's really the only good thing I can say about him. He wasn't a good father when I was married to him. He wasn't a good husband. He didn't physically beat me, but he sure did emotionally and sexually, because if he didn't get sex twice a day like clockwork, I was a slut, I was a whore, I was fat, I was ugly. And then he would leave the house and be gone for hours and come back and tell me how he was out partying with a bunch of chicks. And I was like, well, goody for you, you motherfucker, and I'm pregnant with our daughter. And he was, and he would tell me that every day. He just drilled into my head every day how ugly I was and what a slut I was, and how am I a slut? I'm here pregnant with your daughter. You're the one out whoring around, not me. And I put up with that shit until after the baby was born, and then I left him, and I went back to, I went to where my dad lived, and moved in with him. But before my daughter was born, my husband said that he had an audition with a band called the Runaways. And for those of you who are my age would probably know who they are. It's an all-girl band. And he said that he got the the gig, and he was going to go on tour with these ladies. And I don't know if any of it was true. And I wanted him to make it in the music business, but it was 2 weeks before my due date. And I said, if you go now, make sure you pack all your bags, because you're not coming home. I said, you don't want to be here when your kid is born? Fuck you. Go and don't come back. And so he didn't go. So I don't know if that was because of me or because it wasn't really true. I have no idea. But anyway, so yeah, I left his ass there, and he ended up following me to where my dad lived. And the same shit just, happened over and over and over again. I ended up losing, I don't know how many more pregnancies before my son was born, maybe another 2 or 3. For some reason, I just could not maintain pregnancies. In my entire life, I've been pregnant 15 times, and I have 3 children. So I'm glad I don't have 15 children. But at the same time, that's a lot. That's a lot of losses for, any woman to have to go through. But so I don't know. I ended up leaving him. I don't know how long. I guess it was probably about 1.5 years later. I ended up leaving him again. And I went back to where my mother was, and he ended up following me again, and I took him back for one last time. And it took me, I don't know, we had a son. And I don't know why I ever thought, oh, well, maybe if we have a kid, things will get better. Yeah, it doesn't. If you have those thoughts in your head, it doesn't work. It just makes things worse. So don't do it. Yeah, so we ended up separating, I'm going to guess about 4 months after my son was born, and that was it. I filed for divorce. But this video is getting a little bit long, and it's getting a little bit late in the evening, so I think I'm going to end with that. And yeah, if you want to hear more of my story, this is just the beginning. Be sure and subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications so that you don't miss out on a video. And if you're new, you're probably going to want to go back to video, the first video, so that you'll be lost, because I'm kind of telling a story, and yeah, you probably won't be able to follow along. It's like starting a movie, in the middle. You don't really know what's going on. So anyway, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. Peace.